evening, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome to all our guests this evening. Mount Timpanogos rises nearly 12,000 feet into the sky above the state of Utah. It is the second highest peak in the Wasatch Mountain Range and one of Utah's most popular mountains for hiking. Literally thousands of people hike along the slopes of Mount Timpanogos every year. There are two main trails that hikers use to reach the summit. Both are a little over 7 miles long, and both result in a little over 5,000 feet of elevation change along their lengths. The mountain features a small glacier that they call the Timp Glacier, and at the foot of the glacier is a small glacier lake named Emerald Lake, named for the striking blue-green color of its water. I came to know this mountain through my son Matthew, who spent a summer as an intern with Boeing and later as an employee of the company. It was August of 2016 when I arrived in Utah for a vacation. Matthew had heard about Mount Timpanogos through some people at work, and he wanted to climb it. I thought, hey, I'm up for that. So I asked him a couple questions, like, how long is it going to take to get to the top of the mountain? He thought it would take us about 2.5 hours. But he heard that some people actually got to the top and back in under 2.5 hours. Really? The next morning, we set out on our hike. We arrived at the trailhead a little before noon and ate the Subway sandwiches we had picked up along the way. Then we set out on our hike. We continued up through forests. We hiked through scrub brush, through a rock field, still more rock fields, and after 5 hours, a role reversal kind of occurred, and now it was father asking son, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Another half hour of hiking brought us out into a meadow with some of the most beautiful blooming wildflowers I'd ever seen. All the colors of the rainbow were represented. And at that point, the full might of Mount Timpanogos was revealed. I saw this and I thought, what? At a passing hiker, I asked, is this where we're going? He said, yeah, that's the top of the mountain there. It'll take you about 2 more hours to get there. Well, we continued hiking along, and soon we were above the tree line. Hiked for about another 1/4 mile, and I was beginning to think, there is no way we're getting up and down this mountain before dark. I told my son that. He says, Dad, don't worry, I brought a flashlight. Well, we spent the next 15 or 20 minutes arguing back and forth. Finally, he relented, and we headed back down the mountain defeated. My son was so disappointed and upset, he didn't speak to me for the next hour. I obsessed about that mountain for the next year. I read all I could about its history and the people that had climbed it. I found out that one man had climbed it over 700 times. I put pictures on my wall, on my computer, kept it in my mind. I was determined I was going to get to the top of this mountain. A year later, again in early August, I was on vacation in Utah. I told my son, this time we need to be at that trailhead by 7 a.m. Surprisingly enough, he said, I think we should be there even earlier, Dad. The morning arrived for our hike, and we were packed and ready to go before dawn. I had a new backpack with one of those built-in water bladders that I was planning on taking on the hike. He had his old school backpack filled with food and 2-gallon jugs full of water. I was a little incredulous. You're going to hike up the mountain with all that water? Do you want me to carry some? No, Dad, I'll be fine. And we'll need all this water. Okay. It was 6:30 in the morning when we arrived at the trailhead, and dawn was just breaking over the mountain. We set out hiking, and I found that the hike was no less grueling than before. This year, though, we reached that meadow before noon, and the flowers were just as beautiful as they were the year before. We ate our lunches in the meadow, and what we discussed which way we would go up, and we decided the easiest way would be go up along this snowfield because we thought it wasn't quite as steep. So we were hiking along, we got through the snowfield, and we got to a place where it was a near vertical climb, almost hand over hand, to get up to the ridge that separated the two mountain peaks. We hiked along the ridge for about a half hour, and then the summit came into view again. At this point, every nerve and sinew in my body was screaming out to stop this madness. We decided to take a break at this point, and we were sitting there along the trail when a couple comes by with a baby in their backpack. And here comes another family coming by with kids aged from 4 to about 14 years old. I thought to myself, there is no way I'm turning around at this point. Press on, Matthew, I'll be right behind you. It was about another hour, and we finally reached the summit. We exchanged high fives, took some pictures, and enjoyed the breathtaking views of the Utah Valley before we started heading back down the mountain. 12 and a half hours later, we reached the car, exhausted, but with that sense of satisfaction that only comes when you complete a great accomplishment. Even a relatively small mountain is not one to be underestimated. We had made a classic mountaineering error the year before by leaving too late. Matthew was right about the water, too. By the time we got back to the car, we had less than a half a gallon left. It took more than just muscles and will to make it to the top of that mountain. Proper planning, preparation, and hard-earned experience got us to the mountain in the end. Mr. Toastmaster.